Hey, Seahawk fans, welcome back to the Seahawks Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Bill Alvstad, sitting down as usual with co-host Mr. Keith Myers. We are live here on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube as well after the Seahawks won against the Detroit Lions 48-45 in a highly entertaining, offensive-minded game. If you were watching this game for the defense, Keith, you weren't going to find it in this game. It was kind of a
there was
fantastic
not a
finish,
lot.
really.
There was not a lot of defense in this one. In fact, one of the announcers made a comment that this was like a Big 12 college game, and it really was. Like nobody could get a stop. It felt like it was just whoever was going to have the ball last would win, and it turned out Seattle was the team with the ball last, so they won.
It really did seem like that. It was crazy. I felt like even when the game was 10-10 with a couple 4 or 5 minutes to go, the game was still not out of reach for the Detroit Lions to come back. They did end up scoring the final touchdown, and then Seattle held on, but it felt like we were just one punt away or one mistake away from them getting the ball back, and our defense not being able to do anything to stop them, and having them take away this game that it seemed like we were in almost complete control throughout the entire duration, but it was close. You know, we pulled ahead 14 points at one time, 10 points, 3 points. It never quite seemed enough, and you were right. It seemed like it was going to come down to who possessed the ball at the end there, and Penny came through on a third down conversion with the game winding down, and ran out the clock, and that was the end of it.
Penny came through with 2 late touchdowns running the ball also to keep Seattle from letting this one slip away.
Yeah, 2 plus 40-yarders to put this thing away. He finished with over, I think it was about 150 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns in this game. Geno Smith was 23 of 30 for 320 yards and 2 touchdowns, also had over 50 yards rushing and another touchdown. Geno Smith, player of the game, I thought.
Absolutely.
Keith, just in complete command from start to finish.
Over 10 yards per attempt. These weren't dump offs and wide receiver screens or anything. He was looking downfield and he was making connections. There was a couple of he left points on the board on a couple of drives where he could have hit Lockett, and in the end it didn't matter, because it was like, yeah, he missed a wide open Lockett, but then he came back on the next series and, got him the first down anyway. He played that probably the best game of Geno Smith's career.
Best game of his career. I agree. And, we saw him, Keith, and we have talked about this on the show a couple different times, that Geno Smith started games really pretty well this year so far, especially in 2 of those 3 games. The first halves were great, and then the second half, the team got conservative. We didn't have the ball very much. Last game, we had opportunities on only 3 drives in the second half, and in this game, he just took advantage and continued to play well into the second half, and that was the difference, because Detroit was scoring as well. Our defense was just not showing up. I think we played pretty decent in the first half, limited Detroit's opportunities. We took advantage of everything. We didn't punt the ball, and we had Jared Goff had the pick by Tariq Woolen, which was fantastic, because Tariq stepped in front of that ball, showed off his speed, pick 6. That was fantastic. That ended up, I think, being the difference in this game. That one opportunity that went against Detroit and in favor of Seattle. It was just, I just was totally entertained by this game. It was kind of crazy that I was nervous. I'm sitting here nervous for 2 1-2 teams, and here we are, and we end up pulling this thing out.
Oh, it was an entertaining game. Forget the records of the team. You get, a 3-point game with both teams scoring in the 40s. It was entertaining. But you're right. There was not good defense going on here. The pick 6 ended up mattering. And then when Penny got, the Seahawks had that they were 4th down, but then the refs came in and said, no, we stopped the clock before the play, even though I don't think any players realized they'd stopped the clock. And then so the Seahawks got another shot at it and scored on the next play. And then so it took that and a pick six and making sure they recovered it on the onside kick to win this game. That's how bad the defense played. I mean, the offense didn't punt, but the defense, that's how many points the Seahawks gave up defensively. They just didn't.
45 points. We gave up
did not
45 points in this game. It's kind of crazy. We just literally had to win a shootout against the Detroit Lions to win this game. It was crazy, Keith, because we scored 24 points in each half. I mean, that's how consistent this thing was. And it really came down to, I mean, we ran the ball. If you combined Geno Smith, and some of those were not designed runs, he just kind of took off. If you combine those things with Ken Walker, I thought had some effective runs in there. D'Eskridge, I think, had a fly sweep at one point that was went for 11 yards. That was a good time to run that. And then Geno Smith had over 50 yards, including a touchdown. If you add all those things combined, we ran for close to 250 yards in this game. I don't have the stats in front of me. I'll bring those up in a second. And Geno threw for 320. We had over 500, so almost 600 yards of offense in this game, Keith, and over 1,000 yards total for both teams. Highest scoring game in the NFL this year.
And we knew that Detroit's offense was bad. We knew their defense was bad, and we knew Seattle's defense was bad. What we didn't expect was for Seattle's offense to actually continue to move the ball in the second half, because they have yet to do that in any game this year. I mean, they came into this game with 3 second half points through 3 games. And they were deep into the third quarter before, things broke right for them to get into the end zone and kind of break out of that second half slump. Hopefully they're out of it for good now. But I mean, we had concerns. And then you look at, Detroit was missing their best running back. They were missing 2 of their top 3 receivers, and they lost another one. I mean, at the end, the whole entire second half, they had 3 receivers that were active, one of which had just been called up from the practice squad.
I got to hand it to them. Detroit, their offense, they played well. Jared Goff played well. We didn't have a tremendous amount of pressure on him. We had some early pressure, I thought, in the game, enough to affect him a little bit. But never really got the sacks, never got really tackles behind the line of scrimmage. There were a couple. I thought Boye Mafe had a good game, and he had some key stops there a couple of different times for conversions that they didn't end up having. But we had over 550 yards total offense, Keith. We had 235 yards rushing in this game and 320 yards passing. Can you remember, Keith, an offensive performance like this where we put up this many points and this many yards against any team?
Yes, I can. Against the Buffalo Bills in 2012, near the end of the season, when the Seahawks hung a 50 burger on them. Literally could do anything they wanted in the backups.
That was a big run, like 3 games in a row too.
Yeah, before the end of the third quarter, the Seahawks were subbing out starters. So yes, I can remember them doing that. But this was a great performance by Seattle's offense. I mean, you can't really take anything away from them. They did what they had to do over and over again.
When do you stop, Keith, and say that Geno Smith is actually good? He's a good quarterback. He's a good system quarterback. He's looking really good in this offense.
When he takes the team on his back and goes and wins a game.
I thought he did that tonight. I mean, we were ahead, but he put the team on their back for that drive that they had to finish out. They had to make sure that Detroit did not get the ball back. Yeah,
Rashad Penny carried this team in the second half.
But Geno Smith had that third down conversion to lock it in that drive as well. And that was really important, just as important, I thought.
Yeah, he made one great play. But the entire second half, the reason why the offense continued to score was that Rashad Penny was running people over. Geno Smith was great in the
I
first
don't know
half.
that Rashad
And
Penny was running people over, but he was running around people for sure.
yeah, I mean, well, there's a couple stiff arms where people ended up on the ground and he kept running. The second half offense was the Rashad Penny show, not the Geno Smith show. The Geno Smith show was the first half when he just was lights out. And then in the second
I
half,
have
things got
not
conservative.
seen even a Russell Wilson designed offense run so efficiently and effectively with a confidence level that Geno Smith is operating under, where he's fitting balls into tight windows. He's making the right line calls, right line decisions. He opted into a couple of runs, especially after that play clock snafu by the referees on the third down. We didn't convert. We came back. We changed the play at the line of scrimmage. I don't know if that was a Shane Waldron thing or Geno Smith. Handed the ball off to Penny. Penny went untouched on a run blitz and all the way to the end zone on plus 40 yards. And crazy. I mean, everything's working right now on Seattle's offense.
Yeah. I mean, I still have concerns with Seattle's offense in the second half because this was Rashad Penny kind of taking over the game. If he doesn't, or you know what I mean, like if he has a couple of plays where he doesn't break a tackle and get through, the final score ends up different and the result is different. The offense wasn't making the same kind of plays in the second half where they weren't getting the ball. Geno had that one nice third down conversion to lock it over the middle. But other than that, the second half, it was more, hey, we've got a lead. We're going to hand it off to Penny and let Penny run it. And he
And I thought
did.
that was exactly what they should have done and what they did do. I mean, that was the right way to handle this thing. We were up. We needed to run the clock. We needed to try to help our defense out by keeping them off the field. We've been talking about this for 2 or 3 weeks, Keith, as far as we need to be able to run the ball. And they did. And so I can't take anything away from the offense and Geno Smith in the second half of this game for doing exactly what they should have done and then did do.
Yeah. See them do it against a good defense. The worst.
So that's true.
In the
Now, granted, the Lions defense, if there's a defense that's on the verge of being as bad as the Seahawks defense, it's the Lions defense. I mean, they really couldn't do anything either. They were out of position quite frequently on some of those penny runs. Maybe a tighter defense, a better defending the run defense may have made a difference in this game. It probably would have, obviously. But I thought Geno in the first half had so much command. I was smiling in the first half when I was watching him play.
In the first half, he was outstanding. And I don't want you can't take anything away from the way he played in the first half. He had such command of the offense. He was making the right calls, changing plays at the line of scrimmage to get the guys open, hitting people down the field. His use of the tight end throughout the game is like, it's fun because we haven't had an offense that featured tight ends since Russell Wilson was drafted. And now suddenly all three of these tight ends are getting involved. And it's fun to see, the offense spreading the ball around, getting into a bunch of people. And then you have DK Metcalf just going off in terms of total yards in this game too. So it was a lot of fun. It really was.
No, it was. So DK finished with 7 receptions for 149 yards. Tyler Lockett, 6 receptions, 91 yards. Will Disley, 4 receptions, 39 yards with a touchdown. Colby Parkinson had a couple of key receptions again. And then you mentioned the running backs. I mean, Penny, 151 yards. Geno Smith, 49 yards on 7 carries. A couple of those were kind of designed, including the touchdown, which was a great little read that he made on the defense right there, went in untouched. Ken Walker was effective, I thought, even though he only averaged 3.6 yards per carry. He had 8 carries for 29 yards. And Dieskridge had that one fly sweep for 6-yard pickup. I also noticed too, Keith, and you probably noticed this too, right at the end of the game, Dieskridge kind of went down with looked like a little ankle sprain or something like that after a reception to pick up the first down.
he got hit helmet to helmet, and I know that it was the defensive player who was shaken up on that. But
Mm.
given Eskridge's extended timeout with a concussion,
He didn't look like he was affected in the head. More so, he limped off a little bit. So
no, but it just scares me with him because he had that concussion where he was out for like over a month. I was at 6 weeks or something. And so when I saw the defender go head to head against him, I was like so worried because there's got to be life after football. You can't just keep taking those headshots.
So let's talk about the defense a little bit. So let's talk about the big play, and then let's talk about everything else, because it seems like there's the big play, Tariq Woolen's interception, and then there's
Mhm.
everything else that's kind of in the same bucket. But we can talk about a couple different individual performances that I thought were kind of standout. Let's start right with Tariq Woolen though.
Oh yeah,
That
Woolen
that
actually played well. It wasn't just one play. Tariq Woolen played well throughout, um, and it's just hard to continue to say how good he's been, even though the defense as a whole has been terrible. Woolen hasn't been the cause of that. He's actually played pretty well, and um, on that play, he was in position, saw what was going on, broke on the ball. There was no doubt. There was no one who's going to touch him.
yeah.
And I mean, the only one who had a chance to was Goff, and he wanted nothing to do with uh, Tariq Woolen running at that speed. So he made a business decision and ran out of position and let Woolen go
Is
in.
it just me, or is this kid capable of so much? I mean,
Oh
I
yeah.
can just see this guy having 6, 7 interceptions a year for the next 5, 6 years, kind of being this Richard Sherman-esque kind of player. I mean, he's
Oh yeah.
just got that stature, he's
He's
got that
starting to get there.
swagger,
Hmm.
right?
I
He's
mean,
starting to cover
he's
one-on-one the best receivers that can be
yep.
thrown at him.
That's what happened
Um,
last week where they.
Amon-Ra Brown, St. Brown was not in this game. We need to
Mm-hmm.
note that. So, but hats off. I want to say this: hats off to the Detroit Lions receiving core and tight ends there. Hawkinson had just a
Oh
tremendous game
yeah.
against our mostly linebackers and safeties, I have to say,
Hmm.
which left a little bit to be desired out there on the
A
field.
little bit. A
A
little
little
bit.
bit, and then you take a look at that one play, Keith, where both Josh Reynolds missed the initial tackle on
Josh
him,
Jones.
Josh Jones, and then
Kobe Park or
not
Kobe Barton went like he was
yeah,
gonna
Cody
hit
Barton,
him and
yeah,
knock him out of bounds and just kind of like
yes, he just
nudged
went
him.
high, right,
He
yeah,
just nudged him and yeah, he was like, no, no thanks.
inexcusable.
I'm not going out of bounds, and just turned upfield and got an extra like 40 yards, and it led to
Oh, it was crazy.
a touchdown. Barton played genuinely bad in this game.
I
Of
agree.
all
One of
the
the
of
worst performances I've seen overall. I mean, missed
yeah.
tackles, out of position, over
This was
pursuit.
Aaron Curry bad. I'm
Wow.
sorry. Like that you can call that a hot take all you want, but this was bad. He was on Goff's rushing touchdown. Barton was in the right gap and decided to go over and hit offensive lineman rather than tackling Goff because Goff literally ran right beside him. It was
So, who else did you like in this game as far as the defensive performances?
I liked Woolen. I liked what I saw from Boye Mafe. Granted, he's a guy that's in a position that's not going to be featured all that much because he's of where he's lining up and that kind of stuff. He didn't get after the passer quite as much as I think everyone would like, but he did his job against the run far better than um,
Yeah, I agree.
you
And
know.
played the pass, defended the pass 2 times that I
Yeah.
noted where he made
Hmm.
plays close to the line of scrimmage on
Yep.
short dump offs and in the flat. He was
Yeah.
there.
He was there. So I liked what I saw from him and Uchenna Nwasu on the other side.
Yes, I was hoping
I
you'd mention that.
also had a good game.
Almost had an interception.
Oh, he was God. You got to catch that, man. It hit you in the hands.
Yeah, and then he had a sack. I think
Yeah,
Nuwasu had that sack,
he
correct?
did. Yep. Nwasu had a
But
good game.
yeah, he did have a
Boye
good
Mafe
game.
had a good game. I want to see like those two guys need their percent of snaps go up. They're
I
just
thought Ryan Neal had a
everywhere.
great game in the first half and a so-so game in the second half. But, Jared Goff and Hawkinson and stuff, they were just in sync in that second half.
Mhm.
And there wasn't anybody on our defense that was really slowing them down too much. But
No.
I thought Neal did a pretty decent job.
Yeah, and he did, but he also wasn't on the field that much.
Mhm.
And you start to wonder every time you see Josh Jones miss a tackle or not be in the right position, and then you see Ryan Neal make a play when they go to the nickel, and you're like, why isn't Ryan Neal playing more? Um, and it really makes you wonder, like, what's going on there because good things happen when he's in the game.
So the Legion commented that the offense was explosive today, to say the least. Good win, Hawks. So thanks for
Hmm.
your comment. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
they were explosive today.
Oh
We
yeah.
saw some explosive plays from Geno Smith and from Rashad Penny from the running game today, which was something we've been missing for the first 3 games.
Hmm. Also, I know we already mentioned him once, but we need to give credit to DK Metcalf and his continued development as a receiver. It used to be the first couple of years in the league, he dropped a few passes. And yeah, he was dynamic and he could get over the top and he was just better than everyone, but he didn't have the greatest hands. And then there was that play down the left sideline where Geno Smith, he was on the outside and Geno Smith threw it low and inside, where it made it really hard for um, DK to go get the football. And he did, and he made that catch despite the fact that, the defender was all over him and everything. And it's like
Yeah.
just sticky hands. Like it was just a phenomenal play. And that was just one of many. Plus there's, the long catch and all of that. So
Yeah.
he just continues to improve and he was already really good to start with. So yeah, been
Agreed.
very, very happy with him.
Will Disley had a tremendous touchdown catch. I mean,
Oh, he
that ball
did.
was placed so well by Geno Smith, just in rhythm. He hit him right in stride, but it was in a place where only Will Disley could make that catch. The defender was kind of
Hmm.
turned around because Will Disley spun him around a little bit, and it was perfect. I was like, wow. That's when
Yeah,
I knew Geno was just on fire, because that throw was
that throw
just
was
real
great.
nice. Yeah.
And they set it up with the earlier stuff to the tight ends, and so that you had the safety, strong safety there questioning whether to come inside or go outside on that, and he ended up jumping inside because Disley sold him that. The pass went just on the outside shoulder. You're not beating that. You're just not. It was all set up well and just such good execution.
So I was just watching a replay of a goal line play where Williams ran the ball in. Actually, it was Jared Goff. Jared Goff on the keeper.
Hmm.
That
That's the one I was
he
talking about
had.
earlier, and he ran right next to Cody Barton.
Yeah, and Cody Barton just kind of moved inside. I don't even know why. And
Yeah,
and and Jared Goff just ran right next to him, shoulder to shoulder. But Barton just didn't even lay a hand on him. It was kind of crazy.
yeah.
Um, all right. So what do you want to focus on, Keith? We got a little bit more time. I We've kind of talked about both the offense and defense, the plays that stood out. Are you surprised at how much offense we saw? We knew going into this game, Keith, that both defenses were going to be challenged, and I had kind of mentioned. I said I don't even know if we can keep up with the Lions on the offense because our defense is
Hmm.
so bad. But I wasn't anticipating the Lions' defense being as bad. I thought that they were going to be definitely questionable, but I didn't know if we were going to be able to put together 2 halves of football, on our offense, and we
And they
ended up
did.
doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you take a look at that improvement, now you gotta take it with a grain of salt, and maybe you don't. It's the Lions. Um,
The Lions have one of the bottom 5 defenses in the league. Just that's not a question. Seattle has one of the bottom 5 defenses in the league. I think that's also not a question, and that's part of the reason why you saw so many points in this game. Uh, but the offenses still have to execute. They've still got to make the plays. They still got to make the catches. They've got, those things have to happen. take advantage of the bad defense, and both teams did that. The running game for Seattle, especially running to the right behind Lucas and Disley, was really, really good, especially in the second half. And that's where Seattle's success really came, was running right behind, Abe Lucas at right tackle and Will Disley at tight end. And that's where the big plays came from. That's where the touchdowns came from. So
It is
love
interesting to
that.
me that both of those plays where Penny scored he was virtually untouched.
Yep.
I mean, that's to me is a well schemed play if that's happening
Well, it is, and
consistently.
it's also the right call against the right defense because and both of them, Detroit comes up in cover
Run
0,
blitz, yeah.
and they blitz, multiple people right up the middle, and Seattle's going around the outside, and all you need is a good seal out there, and there's no inside linebacker coming out, and there's no strong safety coming out, and it just you just make it easy. So they blocked it right up front. They got the steal they needed, and Penny just went around the corner. It wasn't even really a corner, just ran almost diagonally to the corner because he didn't even have to get out that wide before he cut up field, and just turned it into a big play. Used that speed and power and did Rashad Penny things.
It
Which
is
was great.
exciting to see Rashad Penny run like this again. I mean, the last time
Mm-hmm.
we saw him run like this was against the Arizona Cardinals back in January
Yep.
of this last year, and to see him do this again, it just shows. I mean, granted it's the right call, right place. The blocking was there. He's untouched, but it's just fun to watch a
Mm-hmm.
running back
Well,
take
okay, but
advantage of these things and
those
actually
two big
execute.
those two big touchdowns came when it was all of that, but those weren't the only good runs by him. There were ones where he was, getting the ball in the backfield, having a guy, kind of in his face, having to make that initial cut, and then get upfield, like burst through the hole, get to the second level. He was running hard. He was running well. This was a good game. The thing is, I don't think he's played badly up until this point. They just haven't given him enough chances. The defense has been bad enough that I think the coaches felt like they had to throw it a lot in order to try and get them, keep them in the game off, as far as score. They finally had a chance where they could feature the run, and they did, and he looked fantastic.
So against the Atlanta Falcons, Keith, after that game, we came into the studio and we were fairly discouraged. We honestly were
As we
looking
should
for
be.
answers and looking for ways in which this team could win any game. And we didn't have to wait too long. The
Nope.
Detroit Lions were ready-made on the schedule. We both had them as a win in our preseason prediction show, but we were playing so poorly heading into this game that this became a game that we just didn't know. And quite
You
frankly,
predicted a loss.
it was kind of one of those games where it was going to
Yep.
tell
You
which
predicted a
team
loss on Thursday.
which team was going to be going forward from
Mhm.
today. If they lose this game, and quite frankly, it could have been a loss the way that we were playing. It 1 or 2 punts in this game on Seattle's offense, and that could have been the difference. Give them another
Well,
opportunity or 2 in this game, and that's the
yeah.
difference.
Imagine this game if Amon-Ra St. Brown and DeAndre Swift play,
Yeah,
right?
but it was their defense though that didn't stop Seattle's offense.
Yeah, but at the same time, like,
They didn't
the
have too many wasted opportunities on their offense though, really,
had
especially in the second half.
they had a couple punts, they had a, couple missed, extra points, they had, they had there were some struggles on offense at times. I mean, moved the ball because Seattle's defense was bad, and put up points, but they were kicking field goals at early rather than getting touchdowns. And you give them their 2 best playmakers back. And does Seattle keep them under 50? I don't think they do.
Unlikely.
I honestly don't think they do. And so
So
yeah,
does this game then? Seattle's won. We're
mhm.
2-2. Um, is does your perception of this team change at all coming out of this game? As
No.
far as a team that's able to win or stay in games or score points on teams?
Can they score points on teams? I think they can. I mean, the running game's starting to come together. You saw a better performance by the interior of Seattle's offensive line, which gives me hope. Rashad Penny running over people, running by people, gives me a lot of hope.
Geno Smith
Geno
playing
Smith
with consistency.
continue to be very efficient, not turning the ball over. Love that.
He's, I'll
There
tell you what, right
is
now,
hope.
I'll tell you what, Geno Smith is playing like a Pro Bowl level quarterback right now, regardless of scheme, regardless of any
I don't agree
team
with that.
out
I don't
there.
agree with that.
He's one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, at least statistically, right now.
Yeah, I don't
Take a
agree
look
with
at his
that.
touchdowns. You take a look at his rushing. You take a look at the efficiency. You take a look at the third down conversions. You take a look at the completion percentage. He's all top 5 right now.
No, I don't. I don't agree with that that assessment. You go look at him next to guys like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, and you're going to see he isn't close. He's executing an offense that's designed around, little details here, little details there. He's doing well and he's executing well, but he isn't taking a team on his back and doing great things where it's
But
just on him.
But sometimes in the NFL, that's all it takes to be a really good quarterback and have a good
No.
team and a good winning record.
How many Trent Dilfers have won the Super Bowl?
He's
I think of 2 in my lifetime.
he's playing well enough where if he had a good defense, he'd be 4-0.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say,
I don't agree with that
take a
because
look at that.
they weren't beating San Francisco. No
You
matter
take a look
if
at the
Seattle's
San
defense
Francisco
was good.
game,
And they looked awful
if we had a
on
decent
offense.
defense, it's
Didn't matter.
possible that we had more opportunities for our offense to have the ball and score.
So
It's possible.
more 3 and outs. Got it. Because that's all they did in that game. The wins are not a quarterback stat. Wins are a team stat. What does the quarterback
Russell
do?
Wilson gave you a plus 4 wins a year just because he's Russell Wilson.
Wins are not a quarterback stat. You look at guys and you're like, yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo is a great example. They won a lot of games with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback down in San Francisco. Yeah, how many of them was he throwing for 130 yards because the team didn't trust him. They just handed the ball off and played good defense. They didn't win because of him. They won in spite of him at times. And I'm not saying that Seattle did that today because they certainly didn't. Geno was great about it, but ask him, go elevate the people around you. Go make the people around you better. Go put the team on your back when you're, down 4 with 2 minutes left and go win a game.
What did you text me at halftime today about Geno Smith?
I don't even remember.
So I said, Geno's playing great. I mean, he's just playing outstanding. And you said, yeah, in the first half.
Yeah, because there was they were 7 second half quarters into the season and they'd scored 3 points. Okay, and then they did get a Rashad Penny touchdown there at the end, but that's what through almost 7 quarters, 6.8 second half quarters, they had scored 3 second half points. That's not going to cut it.
No, I agree with you. And that's why I'm so happy about today, is because I do believe, young teams tend to turn corners in seasons, and you never know exactly when that's going to happen. And yeah, Detroit's a poor team defensively, but sometimes just that the running game got going. We called the right calls at the right time. Those sorts of things build confidence in teams. And Geno's already really confident. You can just see it the way that he plays. And I don't know that necessarily even better defenses can slow him down per se. I think he's got opportunities there to kind of carry this over into more challenging defenses.
Did you not watch the second
if he
half?
He can have a clean pocket. He needs a clean pocket.
Of 2 games in the entire San Francisco game coming into this one. You're like,
yeah, I did.
Teams can't slow him down. Well, you know what? They've stopped him completely in 4 out of 6 quarters before
what
this
I'm
game.
saying is that as they've gone forward, he's progressively gotten better and now shown some consistency into a second half. And I just like to see that continue. I think that the opportunity is there. I'm just saying that I'm noticing something's clicking, not only for Geno Smith, but for the offense.
Yeah, do it
And I
against a
want to see it.
defense that isn't awful.
Yeah, I want to see him do it against the Saints. That's the next
Yeah.
game. Let's go see what we can do there.
Yeah.
Anything else? We can just get out of here. I
No,
think this is a good
win.
game. It's a good recap. I'm
It's a
kind of
good
glad
win,
we got
but
on. We did
it's
it live
Detroit.
too.
It's a great win, fun game, awesome. But just it's Detroit. Don't let recency bias, you know, get you out over your skis as far as like, oh, this team's going to the playoffs now. No,
I don't feel that necessarily.
In the prediction show, I had them right where they are right now, 2-2.
I had them at 1-3. So yeah.
Yep. I had them at 2-2, and then I had them ending the season with 5 wins, despite starting 2-2. So the road gets significantly harder. These last 2 games are against 2 of the worst teams in the NFL. The defense still looked awful, and they went 1-1 in those games.
I will have to say that I am concerned about the defense.
Should be.
If our offense had any sputters, if we had punted even once,
yeah,
that may have been the tipping point, because the defense played so poorly. I think we allowed over 450 yards of offense as well, at least.
To Jared Goff.
A little bit more. Right.
To Jared Goff without his 2 best weapons.
Yeah, he still looked good. I mean, I kind of dug the way that he fought. We've and admittedly, I mean, we've been on this show for over 6 years. You and I have been not charitable to Jared Goff.
Well,
to put it mildly. And
how many games have we seen him play when he was with the Rams?
Well,
we've seen him be awful for a long time.
Well, and I did want to say, I appreciate the fight. I do. Yeah. And I just do.
That's a Dan Campbell thing. Their coaching staff is doing a fantastic job.
But it came against my own team, who's one of the worst defenses in the NFL.
Yeah. So Jared Goff, average at best quarterback without his 2 best weapons, put up all those points on Seattle. So there is serious reasons for concern on this defense.
Where's your biggest concern?
Up front.
They still weren't able to really stop the run effectively, I think.
No,
they did. In fact, I have to hand it to Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions. They came out at halftime down pretty decent amount. And what were they down? 24-15.
Mm-hmm.
They were down 24-15, and they came out and ran the ball.
Yeah, they weren't afraid to run the ball. Weren't afraid of that at all. Weren't afraid of Seattle's defense stopping them running the ball, as they shouldn't have been. But yeah, I mean, that's a lot of points given up to an average at best quarterback without his 2 best weapons.
But Detroit is an emerging offense in the NFL. I will say that
they're
especially with Amon St. Brown and so forth, and Swift. Yeah. They're going to be a fun team to watch going forward. Their defense is not good. Okay, so up next we do our midweek show. I want everyone to that's watching to come back and check us out for that show. We usually cover some interesting things, a couple of different players we want to highlight. We talk about some of the things we saw that we liked, some of the things that we saw that weren't so great, and what we can kind of carry over into our next contest. We'll be on a third time this week where we'll preview the next game. I believe, without having the schedule in front of me, I thought it was the Saints. I'm pretty sure it is. And so that'll be towards the end of the week. So we appreciate everyone coming on and checking us out and watching the show. Our recap of the Seahawks win against the Detroit Lions on the road, 48-45. And until next time, follow Keith on Twitter at Myers NFL. You can check me out at NW Seahawk. The show is at Hawks Playbook. You can find us on your favorite podcast platforms and YouTube. Got our own YouTube channel. And you want to make sure you can hit that subscribe button and share it with your friends and family. So until next time, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.